I'm going to start off by saying that I thoroughly enjoyed The Mandalorian. It was a great show overall, but it did have some flaws. And there's one flaw I would like to talk about, but I gotta warn you guys first, there's spoilers ahead. A lot of spoilers. If you haven't seen the last episode, absolutely stop the video. Do not keep going any further. So, without further ado, this is the biggest flaw that episode 8 had to give us. So let's start off by looking at the scene. Towards the end of the episode, Mando, Grief Karga, and Cara Dune are pinned down by Moff Gideon after exiting the lava river. He's flying with his spaceship and is shooting at the protagonists. After Mando puts on his jetpack, he flies over the spaceship and attaches a bomb, causing it to fall and crash down after it exploded. All's good so far, however, they never check the wreckage. I found it entirely baffling that 3 experienced veteran warriors that have just performed the unthinkable and managed to fend off the enemy do not even accept the idea of checking the wreckage. This in general is a major flaw that movies have. The person trying to get rid of another person never checks the body. That's just killer stuff 101. You have to always check the body, especially if you're dealing with a major threat. This of course leads to the end of the episode where Jawas are salvaging the crashed wreckage when a blade cuts through the wall. It's a dark saber. Lo and behold, there's our Moff Gideon guy who is so conveniently safe and sound and emerges through the wreckage. There's a lot of lore behind the Darksaber. I did some looking up, and apparently it was manufactured evidently enough by Mandalorian Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian Jedi. I don't know if there's been more. The fact that it says first definitely gives off the idea that there may have been some more, but as far as canon is concerned and I'm concerned, she was the only one. I hope we get to find out how Moff Gideon got hold of the Darksaber, but that's probably going to be in season 2, hopefully. Now, there's been a few more flaws in the show, such as the fact that Moff Gideon decides to give them till nightfall. I don't know if that was because he knew that the baby wasn't in there and he wanted them alive to get them to the baby, and he so graciously decided to give them a few more hours to decide whether or not they wanted to surrender. The decision to give the protagonists more time to decide whether or not they want to surrender simply did not make sense. You have all this firepower, you have this whole army, just go in there, keep sending them one by one until the protagonists just run out of bullets, or they just simply surrender, or maybe they get injured and not die. If you have the need to have them alive, there's more ways than just letting them plan the escape. The problem is that they already knew there is a sewer system. We didn't know that they knew, but they apparently knew, because when the Mandalorian and his friends go into the sewage system, they find most of the Mandalorians gone. There was a stack of helmets and everyone was dead almost. There was that woman that was melting all the scraps of the armor, and she stayed back, but we don't know what happened to her. But that's kind of like a open-ended decide what happened for yourself situation right there. But Moff Gideon knows that there's a sewage system, so he's giving him the option of escaping. He even hears them firing at the vent, so he's not stupid. Clearly he is a really good general. He knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. So why did he not think what they were doing? Was he so confident that they wouldn't be able to enter the vent system after firing at it? And then he decides to give them until sundown? If you hear that the people that you have trapped have a plan to escape, why not just go at them and not allow them to escape? It really didn't make any sense. Also, when they were running back into the cantina, there must have been a lot of troopers shooting at them, and they all missed. a tremendous amount of them missed. I know it's an ongoing joke that stormtroopers don't know how to aim, and we can clearly see that earlier. The two stormtroopers that were on the speeders were arguing with each other about whether or not they're gonna look at the kid, and one of them starts trying to shoot at a can, and he's missing really badly, and the guy next to him tries to do the same, and they were both missing like crazy. So we already know that stormtroopers don't know how to aim. That's not news, but that was a little bit too much, I think, in my opinion. The droid's sacrifice didn't really make sense either, because we saw him run into the town with the speeder and shoot left and right and pretty much decimate all of the stormtroopers in his path, and then he couldn't fend off a few more, so he decides to self-destruct. That's kind of a make your own decision on whether or not it made sense to you. To me personally, it doesn't really make any sense. He could have just gone out there, start shooting at them. Clearly they didn't think he was a threat because they didn't shoot at him, and then he self-destructs, and some of those stormtroopers were in a big distance from the robot, so I find it really hard to believe that they couldn't have shot him down, or that he couldn't have shot him down. Another thing I don't seem quite to fully understand is, first of all, why didn't IG help Quill, or however you pronounce that, when he was running away from the two stormtroopers on the speeders on his cow looking thingy? He was definitely close enough, that happened on episode 7, he was definitely close enough to the spaceship for IG to go help him. He never responds to Mondo for some reason when he was talking to him on the comms, and he never calls for IG to come out and help them. The amount of time that it would have taken for Quill to get to the ship, IG would have walked a fair amount of distance and get to the speeder bikes and help fend them off. Now, another thing is that the chase seemed to be pretty long. So after the stormtroopers got Baby Yoda, they stopped over the hill after they were riding back to town, and they were not there for too long. And all of a sudden, IG shows up out of nowhere and pretty much breaks them apart and saves the baby. That makes no sense. If IG was so close, why did he not go and help Quill? Why did Quill not call him? How did he get to the stormtrooper so fast? I really don't understand. It makes no sense. But nothing makes less sense than all three protagonists deciding not to check the spaceship. It was right there. It was close. They could have walked on it. They could have checked. They could have made sure that Moff Gideon was dead. But they didn't. That is baloney. I call major baloney on that decision. It absolutely infuriated me, and I really saw it coming when I saw this spaceship fall. It didn't explode, and because it didn't explode, I knew exactly why it didn't explode, and it was because it was about to reveal that Moff Gideon wasn't dead. So I think The Mandalorian had a good run. It was enjoyable overall to watch. I don't really get excited about shows, and that was a show that I was really looking forward to watching as soon as the episode came out. I usually wait for shows to come out on full so I can watch them in peace, and I have to worry about cliffhangers and waiting for the episode and just watching it whenever I can. So I was really disappointed to see that they decided to go that route. And I've done some Googling around, and not a lot of people are talking about it. I've tried to find articles that talk about the protagonists not checking the wreckage to make sure that Moff Gideon was dead, and no one seems to notice. I don't know if they're quite plot holes or mistakes or just bad decisions on the directing. But yeah, that's all I had to say about the ending of Mandalorian. Hopefully season 2 comes with less plot holes. See ya.